Alright everybody, welcome back again to the channel. As you can tell by the video's title, we're going to be talking about the install on a DIY mud flap option for the 2021 Plus Ford Bronco. So this came about, we kind of knew even before we picked this thing up that we needed to put some mud flaps on it. Didn't like the factory options, they were too expensive. Wanted to do something on our own. And so we picked up a set of mud flaps, and I'll put a link in this description below. You can get them at O'Reilly's, that's where we got them. You can get them even cheaper on Amazon. So I've seen a lot of comments and questions on the Facebook group for the new Bronco. Everybody's asking mud flaps, you know, what's everybody doing? So I've tried to comment as much as possible on what we used in response to another video that a guy had mentioned. You know, the first 3 mods you do to your Bronco, make sure you get mud flaps. 100% get mud flaps, especially if you have the Sasquatch package and the factory Goodyear territories. These things, like I've mentioned before, just pick up every little tiny rock, even big rocks, and they just chuck them right down the side of your truck. So this is going to be the cheapest, easiest option, I think, for everybody out there to at least get something on the Bronco to protect their paint. Again, link in the description below for what we used. I think it is like Road Sport Premier, something like that. No real modification required at all to the vehicle, or even no cutting required on the mud flaps themselves. So what I'm going to do is pull these off and show you kind of just what you need to do and what you need to put them on. Pretty easy for the most part. Yeah. Okay, you're going to want to start by either jacking the front of the vehicle up to remove the wheels and tires, or go ahead and go full lock like I have here to get access to your fender well. I have removed the mud flaps to show you what we have to deal with. Note that we are mainly using these 3 factory nylon rivets, and then we are going to add a 4th screw anchor down behind this flap. There's a 90-degree tab off of the pinch weld that has a hole already in it. Our 5th mounting point will be a new hole that gets screwed with a self-tapping screw into the fender flare. As you can see, you're going to need some number 10 screws, various lengths, an additional anchor, whether it be a nylon rivet, or I used a drywall anchor for a number 10 screw. And then you're going to need spacers. I used plastic pins, and the sizes or lengths you will need is listed in the description. I recommend maybe getting some nylon spacers from online somewhere. We just didn't have any access. We you know, this was a last minute thing, 1,000 miles from home. That was the cheapest option. You can see there's 5 screws here. These 3, 1, 2, 3, utilize the factory nylon rivets. This one here in specific has no spacer, so I recommend pre-installing the rivet. This is your 1-inch spacer, 7/8-inch spacer, 11/16 spacer, and 5/8-inch spacer. Go ahead and pre-install your screws and spacers, and it makes it easy because you can mount that innermost rivet. That way it holds it in for you. Okay, this is kind of hard with one hand, but as you can see, now we're just going to screw them in. Make sure you give pressure on these screws and the spacers. That way it holds the nylon rivets in as you screw them in. Okay, there's 1. 2. 3. before, and I can't use a screw gun because this is too close to the edge, but I recommend doing this one last. That way you can, you're not trying to fight with lining your hole up. It just kind of makes its own new hole. Well, I'm missing it. Okay, so as you can see, this is the finished product. I messed up on this screw. Like I said, it's best to wait till the end. That way, when you screw it in, you know what's making it into the plastic piece, and not just going into a blind spot. So, again, most important thing is do not cut these tabs off. That is the most important thing, because as you can see here, this screw kind of relies on that tab to reach the hole. Now, it really depends on where you mount these flaps. I have them, as you can see here, in from the edge just a little bit. That is mainly to reach the holes where they need to. And the other part of that is as far as looks. I think that is really about the best look that you can get out of these specific ones, while still reaching all the holes and mounting points. So I can't give you exact measurements on where to drill your holes or a template, because I actually did one side first, tried to mimic the holes by mirroring them, and they were actually slightly off, which you could see. You could see right here. I had 2 or 3 holes there, 2 or 3 holes there, and then I think the other ones I had enough play in them to reach. But it's pretty straightforward. Just use the 5 pieces of hardware for each side that I mentioned, and just kind of play with where you need to get your alignment right, and then kind of just drill your holes roughly. There's a little bit of play in these, but not much. You don't want them looking crooked, otherwise it will look funky. These are, they almost look a little bit crooked, but they're, for the most part, pretty flat and straight. Kind of depends on the angle that you look at it, but these are about 18 inches tall. I would like to have something about 2 inches longer, but that particular company doesn't make anything longer, and if you get longer, it's probably going to be a lot wider. And if you go too wide on it, it's probably not going to fit right, so you might have to trim it down. So actually in the future, I plan on, these are like heavy truck mud flaps. I plan on grabbing some of like the quick release brackets, and at some point I'm going to modify that bracket to fit on the Bronco front and rear, so we can do like, you know, quick release flaps in case we go rock crawling. You probably won't want to use these rigid mud flaps off-roading, because if you come down on a rock, it's probably going to break the mud flap, it's going to pull the screws out, or you could rip your fender liner or something. But another thing, a lot of people were concerned about the rock rails hitting, which is actually why I took these off again and put them back on, to kind of dial in the spacer size. So having the right spacer size ahead of time really helps kind of take out the guesswork. So believe it or not, as they are now, they do kind of touch the rock rails, but I mean, they also kind of use the rock rail as an extra piece of support. But the spacer back here, the spacer here, they help push it out just far enough that it's not touching that. So you can see here, the curvature follows pretty good. This could be cut maybe a ½ inch shorter, but it's really not going to do much. Like, there's enough flex in those mud flaps to make up that that curve. So hopefully this helps a lot of people. I know it helped me. It was a quick, easy fix. but just to get you by until some better solutions come out. So thanks again for watching. If you guys have any comments or concerns or other questions, let me know below, and we'll wait till the next video. Thanks.